This is Informer News, your voice of the people. Timeline is Sunday the 6th of April 2014. Welcome along, my friends, to another edition of Informer News. Coming up in this week's broadcast, incredible evidence I've obtained thanks to my source of what's really going on planet Mars. Amazing images of the Martian surface showing alien craft and life. And your leaders know the truth, but fail to pass this information on to you. Plus the hidden history of mankind, from a thriving secret space program and a war that's going on in outer space and beyond, as well as here on Earth. Okay, into this week's news. This first report originates from a source which will remain anonymous. This source states the following regarding planet Mars. Hi, NASA uses 2 or maybe 3 matrix to cover up and confuse the observer. They use basic psychology to trick the eyes and consequently the mind. The matrix is what I refer as the rock matrix. There are no rocks. The second matrix is the sandy gravel matrix. There is no sandy gravel. There is no sky or mountains in NASA photos. The whole picture is covered by these matrix. Redesigning the whole landscape, look for what I call rip in the matrix. There you will see the real Martian world. Zoom in on the rocks and you will notice that they didn't do a very good job. As the outline of the rocks are not completely filled in, NASA gives your eyes what you expect to see. They rely on our tendency to see faces, so they lightly draw them in, so that when try and uncover items you will see a face and your attention is hijacked away from the real picture. They blend it in all in with pinkish tan colour and hide all the water that is everywhere on Mars. I'm being called away now, so I'll quickly describe the pictures. 1 is what appears to be a tracked tank machine. It's been loaded onto a huge tracked machine. 2 is a round flying platform with 3 little people overlooking the operation. 3. This is a ground creature that seems to have a strange evolutionary adaptation. The face you see is on its back end. The head is at the little end. 4 is the same as 2, 5 the same as 3, 6 is a face of an alien that has what appears to be tentacles for a body. 7 is a white-faced alien that is flying. 8 is some kind of high equipment also being loaded. 9. Look at the only stone that is actually in this photo. Look at the symbol revealed in it. It's the Omega sign. There is water in front of this memorial stone as well as behind it. 10 is the tracks of the huge land machine. 11 looks like Moloch from that grove where all the bigwigs go. There is an alien standing right in front of it. 12 is a cannon-like object also being loaded into another huge land craft. 13, dead center, is more water to the left in some kind of high-tech equipment. 14 is flying cars. Don't distress, I have lots more that are easier to see. 15 more flying cars and a city below. 16 and 17 are huge buildings covered by fake mountains. 18, right at the bottom of the page, is a river. 19 is more equipment being loaded. Notice the little guy sitting on it. He is wearing a yellow shirt. 20, another picture of the phony mountains with buildings in it. 21, I couldn't quite make this one out, but I'm sure nature didn't make it that way. 22 is water, a river in the left corner middle right of the photograph. Note the little bridge or walkway. 23 is more tech being loaded. Note the real-faced alien to the right. 24 is self-explanatory. 25 is cityscape. This next report gives an alternative view to what I reported on a fortnight ago, that Russia was working together with the United States on a joint secret space program, and both countries are the closest of allies. In this report, there are claims that Russia has been involved in hostile activities against the US public space program using advanced particle beam weapons, taking out Skylab, killing 5 US astronauts in October of 1977, as well as destroying the Space Shuttle Columbia, killing all aboard that craft. Now, these claims could well be disinformation put out by the controlling elite to deflect from advanced aliens who are really attacking the public and secret space programs. You decide. Okay, into this report. This following report originates from angelfire.com by Christy Verismo, and it's titled "The Russians Are Coming in Flying Saucers." Let's look at the Russians now. In a summary of Fire from the Sky, The One Who Knows, transcribed for him by Dale Stonehouse, claims that in October of 1977, a newly operational Russian Cosmo interceptor shot down Skylab, killing 5 US astronauts. But there was a cover-up and simulation was used to recreate life on Skylab, probably rather like the fake moon landing films and Mars surveyor pictures using models. On September the 23rd, 1977, Russia began destroying US spy satellites using killer satellites, and then they destroyed the US secret moon base. On September the 29th, 1977, Russia launched the Soyuz 6 manned space station into orbit. Her manned space weapons, the Cosmos interceptors, by removing American satellites, cut off shuttle info, and by 1978 they had destroyed them all. By 1978, Russia cosmospheres numbered into hundreds. They were firing particle beams into the air over the Atlantic in defocus mode, causing loud booms. The cosmospheres hovering in the Earth's electrostatic field are invisible from an orbiting standpoint, shielded by a very sophisticated stealth shielding system. They aimed their particle beam weapons with a combination of infrared and detection radar. The Americans devised combat ionization bombs detonated at various locations in the upper atmosphere as high as possible, but below the hovering altitude of the cosmospheres. The result was an enormous storm of electrons spreading horizontally in the Earth's magnetic field, passing under the cosmospheres. The American Bolsheviks send up these shuttles. Many different factions are at work with US, Russia and Israel, influenced to try to dominate the world politically. Initially, the Bolshevik Zionists were funded by the Rockefellers cartel in 1917, and after being kicked out by the Kremlin, flocked mostly to the USA. By the last half of 1980, they began to regain power in Russia, so the decision was made to go ahead with the Space Shuttle mission. The American Bolshevik Zionists, operating from New York and Jerusalem, planned a nuclear first strike against Russia. The Americans knew their manned cosmospheres would destroy the Columbia shuttle, but they had a satellite on board with a charged particle beam ready for it. The American Bolsheviks hoped the shuttle would get enough targeting info to launch a first strike. It carried a satellite capable of fighting back, which produced infrared radiation with 1 megawatt power. The pilots would launch secretly, release the satellites, then drop down to the Pacific same day by space capsule. Fake pictures would show, though it was operated by NASA in Houston. Another shuttle would land in California. There were still 3 more shuttles hidden. Systematics or genetic replicas of the crew. Clones were first created in the late 1970s in USA. It was shot down, but with no satellites it could give no instant information for this. The Russians shot down the shuttles with particle beam weapons. Americans also had made ready ground-based high-powered lasers to shoot down the cosmospheres. The Russians had psychoenergetic range finding, which detected the atomic signature of the target, so aimed accurately, and a new anti-ballistic missile system. Russian physicists involved in magnetic and plasma physics were also said to have been able to develop a ground-based proton beam weapon between 1980 and 83. By 1980 to 81, the Russians had built their 7 jumbo cosmospheres using electromagnetic propulsion, and they used them to destroy the Columbia Space Shuttle, launched in April of 1981. 5 Russian jumbos with special grappling equipment and 2 with neutron particle beam weapons fired on the Columbia, killing the crew. They intended making it land in Russia, but instead it blew up. US Bolsheviks sent a 3rd Columbia up, and this too was shot down by the cosmospheres. It had been armed for battle in space. A special airplane with it was also shot down by charged particle beam. In 1981, the Russians shot down a US electronic warfare jet. In 1982, Russia started weather engineering and artificial earthquakes. Cosmospheres hovering high over USA created air booms along the coast, and numbered multiplied. They were unseen and invisible to radar, except at close range. However, the Americans invented computer-enhanced infrared. By January of 1982, a ground-based high-powered laser finally shot down a cosmosphere. The pilots were under orders to never let them fall into non-Russian hands. It plunged into the sea near Atlantic City. The Pentagon was told it would pay dearly if repeated. The next day, an Air Florida Boeing 737 jetliner crashed with laser warfare specialists on board. More unexplained crashes followed. America fights back with Invisible Phantom. On June the 27th, 1982, Space Shuttle number 4 took off, and moments later a jumbo cosmosphere fired 2 quick blasts at the falling boosters, a warning. Next came the Aeroflot crash at Moscow and the Pan Am in LA on July the 9th, 1982. On July the 16th, a United Airlines DC-10 took off from Boston with key members of the Bolshevik ruling group in USA. A blast from a cosmosphere made a huge shockwave, but it made it to LA. On July the 22nd, a test flight of a perishing missile was hit by a cosmosphere, so the Reagan-Begin axis of Bolsheviks and Zionists prepared the nuclear first strike against Russia. In 1982, a US stealth aircraft invisible to radar was made with surrounding magnets, creating an invisibility field. This Phantom was encased in an electromagnetic bubble. Light and radar both passed round the plane, joining again at the other side. They were also immune to lasers, which were intense light, but the Russians had developed anti-invisible shield technology. The Americans found a way to avoid Russian neutron beams, but the pilot couldn't see outside. He was only guided by a computer. They expect an operational fleet by summer of 1982. The Bolsheviks plan to sacrifice USA in this nuclear first strike against Russia. 4 out of 5 Americans would die. 40 to 50 million Americans may survive a nuclear blast, the rest dying of injuries or diseases. Russia would probably have 50 million deaths. America plans first nuclear strike on Russia. The Americans had promised software stolen from Inslaw, which allowed them to hack into secret computer data in software sold to other governments. A backdoor program had been inserted to relay data to the program creators. The US Pentagon was then controlled by Bolsheviks, who formerly controlled Russia, their agent Caspar Weinberger. They were opposed to the Rockefeller cartel, whose agent was Alexander Haig. Neither the Rockefellers nor the Kremlin wanted nuclear war, or they'd lose everything. so formed a military coalition. Russia had the capability of destroying by first strike the majority of US ICBMs. Most of the US nuclear force was on German soil. Japan for the first time had ordered its armed forces to prepare defense plans to protect itself from foreign attack. Reagan based these first strike Phantom warplanes, which would attack Russia, crashing unmanned in a kamikaze style in North Norway, East Turkey and northwest China. Reagan had cozied up to China to target several Cosmosphere installations in central Siberia. High-powered lasers all over USA would shoot down avenging Cosmospheres. US, having no civil defense, was not expecting to survive, unlike Russia, who built shelters. America would die 1,000 Hiroshimas. US government war bunkers were at Camp David, Mount Weather, Pine Gap, China Lake and dozens of other locations. There are said to be about 129 underground bases in USA, and according to Albiech, more than 1,400 alien underground sea bases around the planet as well. The fight to rule the Earth and space. In February of 1982 to 83, main power fractions struggled to dominate the world. 1. The Rockefeller cartel, big oil, big banking, big business. 2. Bolshevik Zionists, Axis, headquarters, New York and Jerusalem. 3. The new rulers of Russia, who had expelled most of the Bolshevik formerly in power. The US had been locked out of the military use of space from 1977 to 1981. Since October 1977, the moon had been a Russian outpost. They had 7 manned long-range particle beam weapons on the rear and at least 1 large base on the far side. Their spaceships frequently shuffled back and forth. They planned to colonize the solar system and had settled on Venus starting in 1975. In 1982, the Russians had sent 2 spaceships to Venus while the US Space Shuttle was trying to become operative. Russian Viking ancestor urges were strong. America backs down from nuking Russia. USA had to bring Russia to her knees economically in August 1982. Another Cosmosphere was shot down over New York City, was said to be an asteroid. The Carter administration had to strike Cosmosphere bases, so dumped Taiwan and announced full diplomatic relations with Peking, China. The revenge of shooting down both US and Russian planes continued. The Rockefeller cartel operatives within the CIA fed updates about the Pentagon war plans to the Russians. There was a switch at the top in the US. Bolshevik operative Inman was forced out as deputy director of the CIA and replaced by Bolshevik Zionist George Shultz as head of state. September the 17th, 1982 had been the target date to strike at Russia, but on September the 1st, 1982, China no longer allied itself with USA. With conciliatory language against Russia, Nixon had been cooperating with the Rockefeller cartel and had tried to fix things up with China, but they wanted no part of a nuclear war between USA and Russia. By September the 9th, the Chinese base was shut down. Russian Cosmospheres could not be destroyed, the Kremlin told Rockefeller channels that day. On September the 10th, 1982, the Indian Ocean satellite launched from Space Shuttle number 4 was shot down by a Cosmosphere. It had been linked to Air Force Space Command in Colorado Springs. The Russians had left it there to shoot it in a surprise attack. Now USA could no longer attack Russia. The Cosmosphere had brain-scrambled transmitters to confuse pilots. To view the full transcript, go to my website endtimes23.com, where I've posted the link. Okay, my friends, you're all invited to join this channel by subscribing to End Times 23, which is a totally free subscription service. You're also invited to add me as a friend on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. If you'd like to drop me a line on my blog, by all means do so, or if you'd like to join one of my circles on Google+, all the links are under this video. All this week's news links can be found on my website, times23.com. The link is under this video. Just click on the link and go to the top left hand corner of the opening page and click on the Informer News links tab. You will find all this week's news links at the top of the page under this week's title video. Well, that's your lot for this week, my friends. I do hope you've enjoyed the show. I'll be back with you in a week's time with another edition of Cosmic News. So until then, this is your Informer signing off, friends. I'll see you on the flip side. Week's broadcast. Incredible evidence I've obtained thanks to my source of what's really going on planet Mars. Amazing images of the Martian surface showing alien craft and life. And your leaders know the truth but fail to pass this information on to you. Plus the hidden history of mankind from a thriving secret space program and a war that's going on in outer space and beyond, as well as here on Earth. Okay, into this week's news. This first report originates from a source which will remain anonymous. This source states the following. This is Informer News, your voice of the people. Timeline is Sunday the 6th of April 2014. Welcome along, my friends, to another edition of Informer News. Coming up in this one regarding planet Mars. Hi, NASA uses 2 or maybe 3 matrix to cover up and confuse the observer. They use basic psychology to trick the eyes and consequently the mind. The matrix is what I refer as the rock matrix. There are no rocks. The second matrix is the sandy gravel matrix. There is no sandy gravel. There is no sky or mountains in NASA photos. The whole picture is covered by these matrix. Redesigning the whole landscape, look for what I call RIP in the matrix. There you will see the real Martian world. It's been loaded onto a huge tracked machine. 2 is a round flying platform with 3 little people overlooking the operation. 3. This is a ground creature that seems to have a strange evolutionary adaptation. The face you see is on its back end. The head is at the little end. 4 is the same as 2. 5 the same as 3. 6 is a face of an alien that has what appears to be tentacles for a body. 7 is a white-faced alien that is flying. 8 is some kind of high equipment also being loaded. 9. Zoom in on the rocks and you will notice that they didn't do a very good job. As the outline of the rocks are not completely filled in, NASA gives your eyes what you expect to see. They rely on our tendency to see faces, so they lightly draw them in so that when trying and uncover items you will see a face and your attention is hijacked away from the real picture. They blend it in all in with pinkish tan colour and hide all the water that is everywhere on Mars. I'm being called away now, so I'll quickly describe the pictures. 1 is what appears to be a tracked tank machine.